ladies can identify with Martha. Can you even count the number of times when you had to get your house ready for guests? The cleaning, the meal planning, the shopping, not to mention the actual cooking, and the extra work if they're actually staying overnight, especially for any extended period of time. And all the while knowing that you have to clean up afterwards. Oh, and here's poor Martha, having to feed the Son of God, no less, and all of his traveling companions, who show up, so far as we know, unannounced. Can you blame her for being just a bit testy with Jesus? Hey, Jesus, a little help here? And how about us guys? Okay, come on, admit it. We act a bit like Jesus. We're so content to have women wait on us. I know plenty of men of my father's generation and older that actually expected it. The woman scurrying around while the men relax in another room, holding forth on any variety of topics, perhaps while a sporting event commands the television. And, well, but in defense of men, let's let it be said that we know we aren't exactly welcome in the kitchen at a time like this, especially if the timing of the food preparation is somehow just a little bit off. I mean, only a fool would venture into that vortex. Well, Martha doesn't come out and demand that any of the men come and lend a hand. It's not, Lazarus, get in here and help me. No. It's, Mary, get yourself in here. Another woman is called out to do what is still considered the work best left to woman. And Martha words her demand in such a way that seems almost to bait Jesus. Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? It demands a yes or no answer. Oh, that's sneaky. My wife does it all the time. I hate that. Well, like many matriarchs I've ever met, she assumes the answer. Here's Martha getting snippy with her guest, even ordering him, tell her then to help me. You know, it seems those anecdotes you hear about certain self-assured women, they have a basis in the historical memory, don't they? You may have seen it in your own family. Well, I really can't believe Jesus' reply. I mean, yeah, okay, sitting at his feet, learning directly from the master, that would seem to take precedence over housework. But there's who knows how many people that are expecting to be fed. And the table wasn't going to set itself. The biblical emphasis on hospitality, it's well known. And we often hear of a radical hospitality that we should exhibit here in the United Church of Christ. Martha is only doing what she thinks is expected of her. And why does she think that? Why wouldn't she? It's certainly the way that she was raised. Ah, yes, the way we're raised. Tradition dictates that we do certain things a certain way with little, or better yet, no deviation. Pick a holiday. What do you serve? Easter. Probably happy hand. Thank you very much. See? Right there. Okay. 4th of July. You probably did something on the grill, right? Thanksgiving. I dare you to have something besides turkey. So food is an important part of our traditions. And Martha knows that. But what about the roles that we are assigned within those traditions? Now, if Thanksgiving is at our house, I better have the firewood ready for the fireplace. All part of the whole mood, right? Oh, sure, and I get the honor of carving the turkey even though I had nothing to do with its preparation. But the cooking is still, by and large, the realm of the woman in my family. Traditional roles. And here's Mary breaking tradition. Indeed, she is violating a social norm. She's hanging out with the guys while the women are doing the work. Hanging out with the guys while the food is being prepared. Huge taboo. And Jesus encourages this behavior, actually endorses it. In one verse out of the entire Bible, Jesus frees women from their traditional roles. Women, no matter how much they are loved or respected, are even today routinely considered subservient to men. And I was just listening to a radio program on the way here this morning, and it was about the Pope making his first official overseas visit for World Youth Day. And one of the ladies, she's in her mid-20s, is new to Catholicism. And she has no problem with women having what many of us would consider to be a subservient role to men within the Catholic Church. So there we are, 21st century. What has changed? But as I understand it, Jesus shatters that view by insisting that it is right for Mary to learn the lessons that he has to teach. Instead of only being allowed to toil in the kitchen, Jesus elevates women to the same status as men. Women are free to be educated, just as men are in Jesus' eyes. Jesus, the radical rabbi, liberates women from the traditional role of only being a servant to men. Jesus grants equal access to women. Well, most of the women here are smiling, perhaps, if not outwardly, certainly inwardly right now, while the men are thinking, whoa, Jack, you're taking quite a bit of liberty with today's scripture. You're thinking, the Bible doesn't say anything about women's lib. Okay, for the sake of argument, let's say I have ambled a bit too far. But not in the way you might think. There is liberation in this passage. It's a new perception that can free an entire community of faith. And something I observed this week, I think can help illustrate what I'm trying to say. I was in a church that's steeped in the ancient traditions of the Byzantine right. And a few of us were making small talk with the caretaker. And in practically the same breath, he lamented the decline of their attendance, even as they spent a significant amount of money on a new chandelier, which would be similar to what would be found in one of their churches in the old country. And I'm kind of looking for some sort of visual reference here. And if you took any three of these and stacked them one on top of the other, and then made it twice as big around, you'd have it. This thing was so brilliant, you couldn't stand to look at it. It was so bright. He shrugged his shoulders and shook his head. Now, the population that used to speak the mother tongue has died away. The next generation has moved away or married away. Declining enrollment caused them to close their school. And so he knows that having this, yes, very lovely chandelier, this expensive lighting fixture, wasn't going to be the reason for people to begin filling their pews. He knows they should have done something. He doesn't know what. They should have done something. Perhaps something less tangible. You know, not a thing, but something that would have had more meaning. What's a church to do? Well, a Protestant pastor told me a story that I know you can identify with. This story is not about this church, but it could be. A church of average size was approaching their 200th anniversary. And the discussion began of how to celebrate it. The prerequisite meetings began to discuss the ideas. Then the planning meetings started to discuss how to implement the ideas. Then the organizational meetings got started to decide who's going to do what. And meetings were held to discuss the progress of the meetings. And people began to grow a bit weary, but hey, 200 years comes around once. We're going to celebrate it. So they dutifully labored on. The events and the observances, they came together. Former parishioners returned from near and far. Old acquaintances were renewed. There's plenty of church food. It was a fine, enjoyable party. They really did do a great job. Then the crowd thinned out. People claimed their dishes and potluck utensils. The usual crew stuck around to clean up afterwards. You know they are. Everyone was exhausted. And then months later, discussions began on what to do next. Nobody answered, except to say they were too tired. Attendance dropped, and the pastor eventually left. What do these two examples have in common? Traditionally, the ancient church is locked into customs that are not relevant to a 21st century person. The 200-year-old church observed an anniversary that celebrated their fellowship, and rightly so. Nice. But in the end, what was the point? that church lost their focus on their reason for being, or worse, did they not really have a history of service, a tradition of being in mission to God's creation? Martha is weighed down by the same responsibilities and expectations that many of us place on ourselves. We typically place importance on the wrong things. In our personal lives, often, it really is things. In our churches, the thing is often busy work. The church is meeting itself to death quite literally. Talking about maybe doing something about something. And I'm not trying to single-handedly stamp out the church potluck dinner. But if that dinner only serves us, the club members, we deserve our fate. Jesus tells Martha that Mary has chosen the better part. That is, she has chosen to listen to Jesus first. Martha is doing what she thinks is expected of her. And she casts that expectation on others. We have the opportunity to replace where we place importance. We are liberated from the busy work of our lives if we spend the time with Jesus that he offers. Be liberated. Spend some time listening for the voice of Jesus telling you how to make a difference, how to tell the difference between what is busy work and what is necessary for happiness individually and collectively. Reject the worldly expectations, those that are placed on you and those that are placed on the church. Because the world, even though they don't come here, they have all kinds of expectations of what they think a church should be. Some of them are right. Many of them are ancient and incorrect. Say farewell to traditions that inhibit your personal and community growth. Choose the better